Welcome to Monster Territory, everybody. Brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. What a day it was today for Red Sox fans all across the land. You had a doubleheader, lots of baseball today, but the top story, Marcelo Mayer getting called up to the Red Sox, the number 8 prospect on the top 100 prospects for MLB Pipeline. This has been talked about a little bit for the last week or so, more so when it came to, with Christian Campbell possibly moving to first base, but we got some unfortunate news with Alex Bregman. He's going to be out for a little while. We're going to talk about that tonight, but you had no other choice than to bring up Marcelo Mayer. He's been hitting great down in AAA. There was no reason to keep him down at that level, especially with Bregman going to be out for an extended period of time. So we'll talk about the call up here. I'll give you my thoughts on how that's going to shake out, and what other moves I think the Red Sox need to make. I don't think the Red Sox should stop there. I think there's one other guy they need to call up. You already know who I'm talking about, but I'll talk about that in just a second. I'll talk about, Alex Bregman. We'll dive into the injury. But I'll talk about, the possible impacts of that as well. And of course, we'll talk about the doubleheader today. Rafi Devers walking off game 1. Still don't know why the Orioles pictured that man. I know why they did, but at the same time, you can't be picturing a Rafi right now with the game on the line. But then the Orioles bounced back in game 2. The Red Sox wasting a great start from Lucas Giolito. We'll dive into that. But before we do get to everything on the menu for tonight, got to talk about tonight's sponsor.
FT fam, let's talk about the HOF app. If you're into parlays, but sometimes you're missing the mark more than you would like to, can I introduce you to some serious analytics on an app that is easy to read and comprehend? And I'm sitting next to a man who knows how to place a parlay.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is breaking down a parlay. With this Hall of Fame app, there's the situations that you'll find easier to do. It's very helpful and understanding. And if you like, gambling, sometimes this is really good to know. So get on there, get on that Hall of Fame app and check it out.
Yeah, this is info that will help you, okay? With a 4.9 rating in the App Store and over 6,000 5-star reviews, safe to say that HOF has already helped a lot of people bet smarter. For a limited time only, FT listeners can get a 7-day free trial and 50% off their first month when they use code FOUL at checkout. Download the HOF app on iOS or Android. Enter code FOUL and you're all set. I just want to say, before Arena Club, if you were trying to very actively buy, sell, trade, it was very complicated and used a lot of mail that was unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to do it, but I'm glad we have Arena Club now because it's a one-stop shop for everything card related.
It is, and right now you can get 20% off your first slab pack or your first card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL. If you're a collector, you've got to check out Arena Club. Go get after it.
And everyone, what great timing. Marcelo Mayer called up today, and you can actually go get the Marcelo Mayer 2023 Bowman Megabox card on Arena Club right now. Again, use the code FOUL. Take advantage of this opportunity. They have a lot of great deals going on over there. But let's get to the post-game breakdown. Let's talk about Marcelo Mayer. This is the big story of the day. In my opinion, I think this was overdue. Sure, could you always maybe fine-tune some things down in the minor leagues, maybe work on a couple little things here and there? Sure. But with the timing of the Alex Bregman injury, which we'll talk about in just a second here, you had no other choice. You had to call up Marcelo Mayer. He'd been hitting great down in AAA. Taking a look at the numbers here. And, listen, guy was having a solid time down in AAA, especially as of late, hitting .271 overall on the year, an .818 OPS, 9 homers, 43 RBIs. He got off to a bit of a cold start, but he's been hitting very well as of late down in AAA. Again, you had to bring this guy up, right? But another big thing, I think, with Marcelo Mayer, where, we'll get to, game 2 of the doubleheader here in just a little bit. But, sure, we did see a few strikeouts from Marcelo Mayer, but when you took a look at the walk percentage and the strikeout percentage down in AAA, it's very encouraging. Over a 10% walk rate down there, under a 20% strikeout rate. Again, like I said, a few strikeouts here tonight, but he has shown to be a pretty disciplined hitter. I think if anything, even if you don't really see a whole lot of impact, with the bat, even if he's not hitting homers left and right, I still think he's going to give you a competitive at bat. He'll still work the counts at the minimum. So to me, Marcelo Mayer, I think, is going to be a solid addition for this lineup. Now, again, there were talks of him, maybe getting called up to play second base. Christian Campbell moving over to first. He's been taking a lot of reps at first base pregame as of late, but ended up being because of the Alex Bregman injury. Now Marcelo Mayer is going to be the third baseman for the foreseeable future. Kind of reminds me of Xander Bogaerts when he got called up back in 2013. Remember, Stephen Drew was the shortstop. But they needed a bit of a spark in that lineup, and Xander Bogaerts, he was hitting so well down in AAA. Or actually, was it? I believe it was AA, actually. They had to bring him up. So very similar situation here. Pretty, funny story with the Marcelo Mayer call-up. He actually lost his keys, and he said he didn't really need them over the last few weeks. And, of course, when he did need them, he couldn't find them. So actually had one of the clubhouse guys drive him in just a blue Kia Forte, one of the older Kia Fortes as well. It made me think, they're just like us, right? Just the normal folk, right? You gotta remember, he's still a minor leaguer. He's not driving one of these, $100,000, Range Rovers or whatever, these Mercedes, right? He's not there yet. Anyway, but Marcelo Mayer on his call-up saying, my job here is to do whatever I can to help the team win. I'm going to go out there every single day and give it 100%, give it my all, and then hopefully that's enough. Alex Cora did touch on this as well, said he's a baseball player. Very smart. The defense is natural for him. He's a good base runner. Obviously, offensively, still learning. And that's another thing as well. He's going to be good defensively out there for you. And when he does get on base, he is going to run the base as well. He's not going to steal, bases left and right, but he has a good IQ for a ball player. That was something that I remember that stuck out in the scouting report when he got drafted back in 2021. Just a good IQ for a baseball player coming out of high school. And let's actually touch on that real quick. Marcelo Mayer, I still remember watching that draft. Every year on my main YouTube channel, I'm watching the draft. Hey, come out this year. We'll be watching the draft again as well, live. But I still remember going into that draft, there were rumors of the Red Sox being connected to Henry Davis. He ended up going number 1 to the Pittsburgh Pirates, but there was a bit of a connection there until the Pirates ended up coming up with an underslot deal for Henry Davis. And then they were connected with Jack Leiter at one point. There were rumors out there that Leiter, he wanted to try and force his way down to the Red Sox. He ended up going to the Rangers. They were connected with a couple of college players, Sal Frelick in Boston College, Matt McClain. So it was kind of a birthday gift that Marcelo Mayer ended up going to them because he was rumored to be the number 1 pick for weeks leading into that draft. And then kind of like a couple of weeks prior, you started to hear Henry Davis pop up a little bit. And that's how Marcelo Mayer ended up with the Red Sox. It was a birthday gift of a draft pick. But Cora went on to say here, early in camp, he was chasing a lot of pitches, soft pitches. That was what we were working on, and he did an amazing job towards the end of camp covering those holes. Funny enough, he actually had his troubles against the slider tonight. So pretty kind of a coincidence how that ended up working out, right? He went on to say, honestly, I got to get back to watch and see the metrics and where we're at offensively. And I think the other 2 aspects of the game, we're going to be okay. So Cora doesn't really sound worried at all about Marcelo Mayer. Now, let's get to how this all came about, right? Alex Bregman, when he rounded first base yesterday, he came up hobbling a little bit. We knew there was something going on with the quad, but when the injury first happened, I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, he doesn't look bad, right? Just maybe, a good amount of tightness there, right? Maybe ends up missing like a week or 2, nothing crazy. I was even thinking it could just be a day-to-day kind of a thing. And he was even saying after the game, he wasn't feeling too bad. But he said he had trouble sleeping last night, and then he woke up today feeling worse. And that's usually, when you strain a muscle. I've competed in powerlifting for many times in my life, and I've trained for powerlifting many times, and I've hurt myself quite a lot. I've strained a lot of muscles in my body. And so anytime you have a pretty good muscle strain, it's going to feel worse the next day. But they got the MRI this morning and they said the results, it was a pretty severe strain. Because if you go back to when he hurt himself back in 2021 with the Astros, he had a similar injury to the other leg. And he actually was hobbling even worse, right? He was hobbling, running down the base paths. Like the guy was basically hopping to get to the first base bag. And he wasn't like that yesterday. So that's why I was thinking, I don't know, it didn't seem that bad to me. But hey, the MRI says it's not looking good, right? Alex Cora touched on this, said it was a significant injury, not going to give a timetable, but he is going to be out for a while. He compared it to the injury back in 2021 when he missed over 50 games. That's a lot of time to miss. It's a lot of time to miss, man. Bregman has been so good this year. One of the top players in all of Major League Baseball. The guy was on pace for an 8 wins above replacement. I mean, that is ridiculous, right? He was so good, looking like he was going to be one of the best Red Sox free agent signings of all time. Could definitely still end up being that. But this is a big blow, man. If you're projected to lose that many games out of your season, man, that's a big blow. Hopefully it's less than that. I hope, let's come back to this in a week. I'm sure we're going to get some kind of an update over the next few days to a week. And I'm going to be honest, again, maybe I'm just being a bit more hopeful and optimistic, but maybe, in the next week or so, maybe we end up getting some good reports. Again, I keep just going back to the way he looked yesterday. Obviously, it didn't look great, but it didn't look terrible to me. So let's see how the next few days go. I'm sure he's going to be getting some treatment. I'm sure he's going to be getting electric stim. He's already probably starting the rehab a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if today, he was doing some very light rehab work, whatever it may be. We'll see. I'm going to say, let's come back to this in a week and maybe the recovery process ends up going a little quicker. But hey, you know what? I'm sure the Red Sox, they don't want to mess with anything. This is something that can linger. So I'm sure they're going to take their time with it. Now, when it comes to third base, like I said, Marcelo Mayer, he's going to be the guy moving forward. I could see, maybe a couple of games where, maybe Christian Campbell gets a day off, plays second base, whatever it may be. Now, when it comes to the lineup, losing Alex Bregman is a big blow. This is a big blow. And Marcelo Mayer, you can't expect this guy to replace that kind of production. That was insane production you were getting from Bregman. There's no way he's going to be able to replicate that. I think the Red Sox need to keep going here. Yes, Marcelo Mayer, this is a good step in the right direction. And hey, when Alex Bregman eventually comes back, I think you see a situation where Marcelo Mayer, if he's still hitting well, where he can go slide over to second base or whatever happens with Trevor Story here. We'll talk about him. I could see a situation where Marcelo Mayer is going to stay in this lineup if he's hitting well. And then if Christian Campbell's looking good at first base, he could eventually move over there. So could see that. However, until Bregman comes back, I still think you need to add something else to this lineup. Marcelo Mayer is not going to be able to replace him alone. I think Roman Anthony needs to get called up as well. He just homered today at AAA. Supposedly, the exit velocity on that home run today was a leadoff homer for the Woo Sox today. I guess it was some of the highest exit velocity since like 2022. I mean, it was an absolute missile. Roman Anthony is absolutely ready. I think, again, you're not going to be able to replace Bregman alone. I think you're going to have to do it with multiple bats. And I think Roman Anthony needs to be in this lineup. There's no reason to be keeping him at AAA. But now you might be asking, well, how do they fit him into this lineup? Where do they put him, right? The outfield's full. You got Seti in center. You got Duran out in left. You got Wilyer out in right. I think you have to take Seti out of this lineup, or you have to take him out of the outfield. I think you put Duran out in center field. He showed last year that he can play good defense out there. He's actually very good defensively in center field. I think you move Duran to center. I mean, even Roman's been playing some center this year. So even if you wanted to go that route, whatever it may be, should be Roman, Duran, and Wilyer in this lineup. Now, with Seti, could you see a situation where maybe he becomes a utility player, right? He kind of gets in the lineup in different ways. Or with Trevor Story really struggling, Trevor Story has been ice cold. I mean, I got to pull up the numbers here with Trevor Story. It's getting to the point here where it's getting a little worrisome. Now, Trevor Story on the year. Let's take a look at the numbers. He's hitting 220. OPS is officially under a 600 at a 589. Over the last 7 games, he's hitting 115. Over the last 15 games, hitting 140. Last 30, he's hitting 151. The guy's ice cold. I mean, he got pinch hit in game 2 for Willie Abreu. And we'll talk about that. But listen, he's not hitting, right? I mean, so with Seti, could you maybe move him to short? And then that can open up a spot for Roman. Or if you want to keep Story in the lineup, right, you're paying him a lot of money. I could see the Red Sox looking at it that way and saying, hey, you know, this guy's getting paid over $20 million. We got to play him, right? You can't just have $20 million sitting on the bench. Whatever it is, Seti at short, Seti in a utility role. Listen, to me, whatever it is, you have to get Roman in this lineup. You cannot waste away at bats when the guy is producing. You need thump in this lineup now that Bregman's going to be out for a while. Sure, Marcelo, maybe he can, give you some decent at bats at the bottom of the order. I'm not expecting him to, hit the cover off the ball. I'm just expecting him to lengthen the lineup a little bit, give you some good defense at third base, run the bases well. But Roman, if you really want to try and get some thump into this lineup, to me, that's the guy you got to bring him in, right? Memorial Day, things tend to happen after Memorial Day and going into June. Could that happen over the next week or so? We'll see. Maybe the Red Sox, they kind of want to evaluate things with Marcelo in the lineup here, give it a week, then go from there. I don't know. But that needs to happen, if you ask me. If you're going to be losing Bregman for over a month, which I think is realistic, hopefully it's not 2. You need something else in this lineup. And they need to move now because once again, we saw today, hey, game 1, you're looking great. Game 2, once again, consistently inconsistent, right? But let's get to game 1 really quick. Let's get to game 1 here, and then we'll get to game 2. Listen, hey, pretty solid offense today. You had 3 home runs. Jarren Duran got the offense started, had a home run of the rain right before the delay. After the delay, Willie Abreu had another one. And then Abraham Toro had his second home run. He hit his second home run of the year in the bottom of the 5th. 6th inning, right? Devers, ground rule double. Willier with the walk. Carlos Narvaez. There was a interesting play from Gunnar Henderson there where he ran in to field the ball and he tried to throw it back to second base. And I remember when his body immediately turned to second base. I'm like, what are you doing? And he just completely threw it in the outfield. To me, when your momentum is coming that way, you just got to go to first, right? He tried to make something happen. Unfortunately, for the Orioles, ball got in the outfield. You score a run there, 5-4. Sogard had the ground out. Willier scored to make it 5-5. Bottom of the 10th, Raffy with the walk-off. To me, it's like, I mean, they kept talking about it on the broadcast. Why are you pitching to Raffy? The reason they're pitching to Raffy is the lefty-lefty matchup, right? You had Ref Snyder coming up, who demolishes lefties. The Orioles were in a no-win situation there. I mean, that's going to be tough to get out of for any team. So they just went with, I guess, what they thought was the best option. Just stick with the lefty-lefty matchup and hope for the best. Well, it didn't work out. And again, maybe you should have just gone to Ref Snyder because Raffy has been unbelievable. In the last 30 games, hitting .363 with an 1166 OPS. The guy is off the charts. On the year, he's hitting .297, a .412 on base, and a .550 on the slugging. 12 homers, 48 RBIs. Raffy is on his way to having the best offensive season of his career. Listen, coming into the year, I was completely on board with him being the DH. I was saying this throughout the offseason. I feel like if you put Raffy in the DH spot, this could be your next David Ortiz. And he's showing you. And again, the whole first base thing happened, and I was definitely, vouching for him to move to first because that could open up something in the lineup. Now, I never doubted what he could do at the DH spot. It was more I was focusing on the whole lineup. But to me, if Rafi's going to keep hitting like this, I'd rather not move him. So I get that. Now, on the pitching side of things, Hunter Dobbins, kind of a whatever start, right? Very reminiscent of Brian Bayo from the last few starts. 4 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned, 7 Ks. He's been having this issue this year where he's fine the first time through the order, but as soon as he gets into the order a second or a third time, he just has a lot of issues. Second time through the order, opponents are batting .365 with a .389 on base and a .558 on the slugging. Hunter Dobbins, he's got to figure something out. I'm not sure, Andrew Bailey and him, I don't know. I'm sure they've, talked about this because this has been something that's been going on with him throughout the year. I don't know, man. They got to figure out some kind of a game plan here because we need Hunter Dobbins to at least get a couple of times through the order. First inning, the Orioles, they had the 2-run double there. 5th inning, you ran into some trouble. Kjerstad had the double. Then after that, base hit, ended up ending Dobbins' day. Newcomb came into pitch, and unfortunately, Sean Newcomb DFA'd. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Henderson, they drove in a couple. Wild pitch, made it 5-2. But in the end, the Red Sox fight back. Rafi with the walk-off. That was it for game 1. Now, game 2. Giolito, man. Great start for Lucas Giolito. I mean, listen, he's been very up and down this year, but he looked great. They got a good up today from Giolito. 7 innings, 6 hits, 0 earned, 6 Ks on the day. The spin rates were a little down today, but the guy was really just working in and out of the zone. He was changing locations. He was looking pretty good here tonight. He led with the fastball and the slider, worked in a good amount of changeups as well. Really just went with 3 pitches today. Seemed like he was just keeping it simple for most of the day. He limited the hard contact. He was efficient. He did get some help from Ref Snyder in the 7th. Had a couple of outs. There was a runner on. And Jorge Mateo, base hit to right. Ref Snyder comes up throwing, gets Kjerstad out at third. Unfortunately, the Orioles offense, they just came alive against the bullpen. You had Brennan Bernardino come in. He got Dylan Carlson on the fly out, but then he walked the next batter, Hanley. Luis Guerrero, he got called up today after the Sean Newcomb DFA. I'll say this about Sean Newcomb, unsung hero for the Red Sox up to this point. I know some people will probably say it's not saying all that much because the Red Sox are 500 right now, but Sean Newcomb saved the bullpen on multiple occasions, had pretty solid numbers. He actually had the second highest wins above replacement on the Red Sox before today. Sean Newcomb, man, I really hope there's somehow, some way where he stays with the organization, but I will not be surprised if another team picks up the phone and brings him in. He ended up walking Rushman. O'Hearn had the base hit that made it 1-0. The Red Sox, they started coming alive a little bit in the 8th inning after just struggling against Trevor Rogers all day. Trevor Rogers, holy cow, this is his first start of the year. Had awful numbers last year. Didn't really look all that great in the minors either, but he retired, 14 or 15 straight batters at one point today. David Hamilton, he stole second, but said he had the fly out. Duran with the strikeout. Rafi popped out to first. So nothing going there. Dylan Carlson, a double, made it 2-0 for the Orioles in the top of the 9th. But Abraham Toro, second home run of the day, third on the year. Amazing effort from Jorge Mateo there, trying to get some robbery, but just cleared the glove. Abraham Toro, home run, made it 2-1. But after that, Christian Campbell with the ground out. Willier did come into pinch hit, which I thought was very telling because he pinch hit for Trevor Story. That, to me, it kind of makes it think there's no confidence in Trevor Story right now. And of course, it's obvious Willier has the better numbers, but I just thought it was interesting, right? Even the camera crew, they took a look at Trevor Story in the dugout a couple of times, but that kind of makes me wonder what the Red Sox are thinking of him. I just wonder at some point if he ends up just being a guy off the bench, going up against left-handed pitching. Kind of wonder about that. But he got the base hit. Then Marcelo Mayer had an opportunity there. got to put the ball in play. Willier was forced out of second base. Hamilton flew out to end the game. I will say this also, Christian Campbell, I'm going to make a prediction here and say he's going to start heating up here. In game one, he had a couple of hard hit balls there, swinging way more confidently. The swings were looking very good from him. Just the body language from him looked different today. Ended up going 2 for 4 in game 2. I think we're about to see Christian Campbell start to get on the right track here. I liked the way he looked today. So that's my prediction. But real quick, let's do a game 2 preview. Game 2 preview here. And we got Walker Buehler. Unfortunately, he got thrown out against the Mets, so he should be well rested for this one. Going up against Dean Kramer. Like I said, Trevor Rogers, he had looked terrible going back to last year, right? That trade with the Marlins has not looked good. Hey, he got it done today. The Red Sox, they need to go after Dean Kramer here. This guy has not been good this year. ERA is at a 5.50. The FIP does not look much better. I always look at the FIP, and no, the FIP is right around the same. He's not really striking out a whole bunch of guys. He's not really limiting the walks. He's been giving up hard hit balls. The Red Sox need to be all over him tomorrow. They have seen him quite a bit. I'm looking at Rafi. If you're into the sports betting game, where however you do it, always play responsibly. But Rafi has 20 ABs against him, 1135 OPS against him in his career, a couple of home runs. I'm expecting Rafi, with how hot he is, to do some damage against Dean Kramer in this one tomorrow. You've had a few guys see Dean Kramer over the last couple of years here. Not too much against Walker Buehler, but I'm expecting Walker Buehler to look pretty good here. Again, he's well rested. He was looking very good against the Mets before getting thrown out. I'm excited for this one tomorrow. Red Sox need to win this. They need to win this series. So, everybody, we're going to wrap it up right there for tonight. I appreciate all of you coming out here for the show tonight. Exciting day. Well, minus game 2, but hey, you got the walk-off game 1. Marcelo Mayer called up. Hopefully, they can figure this out with Bregman on the shelf, but we'll just have to wait and see. Everybody, we'll be back here tomorrow for the game 4 post-game. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you then.